Their deaths were humiliating and excruciating. Mockery of every sort was added to their deaths. Covered with the skins of beasts, they were torn by dogs and perished, or were nailed to crosses, or were doomed to the flames and burnt to serve as a nightly illumination when daylight had expired. Nero offered his gardens for the spectacle, and was exhibiting a show in the circus while he mingled with the people in the dress of a charioteer. But even such violence could not, stamp out the Christians. Tertullian, writing in the 3rd century, managed to praise the Neronian persecution as evidence that the Christian life was something worth living. We glory in having such a man as the leader in our punishment, for whoever knows him can understand that nothing was condemned by Nero unless it was something of great excellence. Few Roman citizens loudly objected to the persecutions, but Nero's outrageous and unjust administration eventually incited a rebellion and earned him the title of public enemy. As his enemies closed in on his hideout in 68, he ordered one of his attendants to stab him to death. Nero's famous dying words were "Qualis artifex perio," which translates into English as "What an artist dies in me." To his last breath, Nero was a man who gloried in his own violence, lust, and narcissism. His self-conception was the very opposite of his most famous victims, to whom we now turn our attention. Paul in Rome. From the mid-30s A.D. onward, the man born as Saul of Tarsus had devoted himself to telling the Mediterranean world about Jesus, a Jewish carpenter from the small town of Nazareth in the Roman province of Judea. Initially, Saul himself was a member of the Sanhedrin, the Jewish religious teaching class. He had been a zealous persecutor of those who adhered to Jesus' teachings. Saul began to destroy the church, says the book of Acts. Going from house to house, he dragged off both men and women and put them in prison. Chapter 8, verse 3. One day, in probably the year 33 or 34, Saul set out for Damascus in Syria to find any Jews there who were members of the Way, Acts chapter 9, verse 2, so that they might be imprisoned in Jerusalem for violating Jewish religious law. But while on the road there, he was blinded with a bright light and fell on his face. A voice accompanied the light. "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" "Who are you, Lord?" Saul asked. "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting," the voice replied. Verses 4 and 5. Saul eventually reached Damascus and lay blinded for 3 days, until a Damascene Christian named Ananias came and healed him. Ananias was afraid to approach Saul, knowing how intensely he hated Christians. And he must have been puzzled by God's own words, describing how he planned to use Saul. "Go, this man is my chosen instrument to proclaim my name to the Gentiles and their kings, and to the people of Israel. I will show him how much he must suffer for my name." Verses 15 and 16. Ananias laid hands on Saul, and the next day Saul went to the Jewish synagogue in Damascus, where he preached fearlessly that Jesus was the Son of God. Verse 27. Saul then traveled to meet the other disciples in Jerusalem. Initially, they were fearful of him, not believing he was really a disciple because of his reputation as a destroyer of Christians. But he was soon accepted on the basis of his preaching. He took the name Paul, choosing to adapt the Gentile, meaning non-Jewish, way of pronouncing his name in order to ingratiate himself to them. Paul began visiting synagogues, teaching to the Jewish congregations that the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ was the fulfillment of messianic prophecies found in the Hebrew Old Testament.